Hare Krishna, my friends. Jai Jagannath. Welcome to Bhaktiville. We are here in Bhaktiville, as we are every Friday night, to read Nectar of Devotion. Next to me is Kandita. Across from me is Bhakti Greece and Bhakti Mimulus. And welcome to those of you who are listening to us streaming on Facebook or YouTube. Nice to have you here, all of you. So every Friday night, here we are, Nectar of Devotion. We completed last week reading about the main rasas, or relationships one might develop with Lord Krishna, and now Srila Rupa Goswami is describing 7 kinds of indirect ecstasies one might experience or see. So that would be page 404 of the PDF or page 365 of the book. I've put up on the slideshow screen the prayers that I use each time when we meet, the pranam prayers, one prayer to Srila Prabhupada and one to all the Vaishnavas. If you would like to say it along with me with your mic off or try and learn the words themselves, I also included the word for word meanings for each of the words. So you can say it with me if you'd like. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namane. I may have a different translation. I'll have to fix that next time. I offer my respectful obeisances unto His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at his lotus feet. I can't reach those buttons. Bhakti Mimulus or Bhakti Greece, could you forward that slideshow to the right once, please? And the next prayer are the pranams. Thank you. Pranams to the Vaishnavas. Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. I also offer my respectful obeisances unto the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, here and everywhere. They are just like desired trees, and can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. All right, here we go. Page 404 of the PDF or 365 of the book. Astonishment and Chivalry. Oh, wait a minute. That's not what we're reading. I take that back. That is not what we're reading. We are reading... Oh, I am so glad I remembered this. We're reading Laughing Ecstasy, which is page 404 of the PDF, or page 365 of the book. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. Yeah, because there's some great stories in here, so we totally have to read this. All right, so sorry about that. So, in the 4th division of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami has described 7 kinds, I just read this, 7 kinds of indirect ecstasies of devotional service, known as laughing, astonishment, chivalry, compassion, anger, dread, and ghastliness. In this portion, Srila Rupa Goswami further describes these ecstasies of devotional feelings, some being compatible and others incompatible with one another. When one kind of ecstatic devotional service overlaps with another in a conflicting way, this state of affairs is called rasabhasa, or perverted presentation of mellows. Expert learned scholars say that laughing is generally found amongst youngsters or in the combination of old persons and young children. This ecstatic loving laughing is sometimes also found in persons who are very grave by nature. Once an old mendicant approached the door of Mother Yashoda's house, and Krishna told Yashoda, quote, "My dear mother, I don't wish to go near this skinny villain. If I go there, he might put me within his begging bag and take me away from you. end quote. So this is Krishna speaking. In this way, the wonderful child Krishna began to look at his mother, while the mendicant, who was standing in the door, tried to hide his smiling face, although he could not do so. He immediately expressed his smiling. In this instance, Krishna himself is the object of laughing affairs. Once, one of Krishna's friends informed him, quote, "My dear Krishna, if you will open your mouth, then I shall give you one nice sugar candy mixed with yogurt," end quote. Krishna immediately opened his mouth, but instead of giving him sugar candy with yogurt, the friend dropped a flower in his mouth. After tasting this flower, Krishna turned his mouth in a disfigured way, and upon seeing this, all his friends standing there began to laugh very loudly. Once a palmist came to the house of Nanda Maharaj, and Nanda Maharaj asked him, quote, "My dear sage, will you kindly check the hand of my child Krishna? Tell me how many years he will live and whether he will become the master of thousands of cows," end quote. Upon hearing this, the palmist began to smile, and Nanda Maharaj asked him, "My dear sir, why are you laughing, and why are you covering your face?" In such a laughing ecstasy of love, Krishna, or matters pertaining to Krishna, are the cause of the laughter. In such laughing devotional service, there are symptoms of jubilation, laziness, concealed feelings, and similar other seemingly disturbing elements. According to Srila Rupa Goswami's calculation, laughter and ecstatic love can be broken down into 6 divisions. Oh, there's a comment here. Bree says, "A sugar candy with yogurt sounds delicious." Yes, it certainly does. All right, these divisions, according to different degrees of smiling, are called in the Sanskrit language smita, hasita, vihasita, avahasita, apahasita, and atihasita. These 6 classes of smiling can be classified as major and minor. The major divisions include smita, hasita, and vihasita smiling, and the minor division includes avahasita, apahasita, and atihasita smiling. When one is smiling, but his teeth are not visible, one can distinctly mark a definite change in the eyes and in the cheeks. This is called smita smiling. Once, when Krishna was stealing yogurt, Jadati, the headmistress of the house, could detect his activities, and she was therefore coming very hurriedly to catch him. At that time, Krishna became very much afraid of Jadati and went to his elder brother Baladev. He said, "My dear brother, I've stolen yogurt. Just see, Jadati is coming hurriedly to catch me." When Krishna was thus seeking the shelter of Baladev because he was being chased by Jadati, all the great sages in the heavenly planets began to smile. This smiling is called smita smiling. So smita, no teeth. Smiling in which the teeth are slightly visible is called hasita smiling. One day, Abhimanyu, the so-called husband of Radharani, was returning home, and at that time he could not see that Krishna was there in his house. Excuse me. Krishna immediately changed his dress to look exactly like Abhimanyu and approached Abhimanyu's mother, Jatila, addressing her thus, quote, "My dear mother, I am your real son, Abhimanyu, but just see, Krishna, dressed up like me, is coming before you," end quote. Jatila, the mother of Abhimanyu, immediately believed that Krishna was her own son, and thus became very angry at her real son, who was coming home. She began to drive away her real son, who was crying, "Mother, mother, what are you doing?" Seeing this incident, all the girlfriends of Radharani who were present there began to smile, and a portion of their teeth was visible. This is an instance of hasita smiling. When the teeth are distinctly visible in a smile, that is called vihasita. One day, when Krishna was engaged in stealing butter and yogurt in the house of Jatila, he assured his friends, quote, "My dear friends, I know that this old lady is now sleeping very profoundly because she's breathing very deeply. Let us silently steal butter and yogurt without making any disturbance," end quote. But the old lady, Jatila, was not sleeping, so she could not contain her smiling, and her teeth immediately became distinctly visible. This is an instance of vihasita smiling. Greece has another comment. Poor kid. Krishna was making trouble for the poor guy. Now his mom hates him. No. We read about the paternal relationship. So no, these are endearing little stories. All right. In a state of smiling, when the nose becomes puffed and the eyes squint, the smiling is called avahasita. Once, early in the morning, when Krishna returned home after performing his rasa dance, Mother Yashoda looked upon Krishna's face and addressed him thus, quote, "My dear son, why do your eyes look like they've been smeared with some oxides? Have you dressed yourself with the blue garments of Baladev?" End quote. When Mother Yashoda was addressing Krishna in that way, a girlfriend who was nearby began to smile with a puffed nose and squinting eyes. This is an instance of avahasita smiling. The gopi knew that Krishna had been enjoying the rasa dance and that Mother Yashoda could not detect her son's activities, nor understand how he had become covered with the gopi's makeup. Her smiling was in the avahasita feature. Dr. Mimulus is laughing in chat. And so he's also, it says here, she asked if he's dressed in the blue garments of Baladev. That's Radharani's clothing. She wears blue. So, another thing. All right. When tears from the eyes are added to the smiling and the shoulders are shaking, the smile is called apahasita. When child Krishna was dancing in response to the singing of the old maidservant Jarati, Narada was astonished. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who controls all the movements of great demigods like Brahma and others, was now dancing to the indications of an old maidservant. Seeing this fun, Narada also began to dance, and his shoulders trembled and his eyes moved. Due to his smiling, his teeth also became visible, and on account of the glaring effulgence from his teeth, the clouds in the skies turned silver. When a smiling person claps his hands and leaps in the air, the smiling expression changes into atihasita, or overwhelming laughter. An example of atihasita was manifested in the following incident. Krishna once addressed Jadati thus, quote, "My dear good woman, the skin of your face is now slackened, and so your face exactly resembles a monkey's. As such, the king of the monkeys, Balimukha, has selected you as his worthy wife," end quote. And while Krishna was teasing Jadati in this way, she replied that she was certainly aware of the fact that the king of the monkeys was trying to marry her, but she had already taken shelter of Krishna, the killer of many powerful demons, and therefore she had already decided to marry Krishna instead of the king of the monkeys. On hearing this sarcastic reply by the talkative Jadati, all the cowherd girls present there began to laugh very loudly and clap their hands. This laughter, accompanied by the clapping of hands, is called Hasita. Okay, Grease has a comment. He says, sorry, Monkey King, no wife for you. Krishna got her instead. Yep. Sometimes there are indirect sarcastic remarks which also create attihasita circumstances. An example of one such remark was made by one of the cowherd girls to Kutila, the daughter of Jatila and sister of Abhimanyu, the so-called husband of Radharani. Indirectly, Kutila was insulted by the following statement, quote, my dear Kutila, daughter of Jatila, your breasts are as long as string beans, simply dry and long. Your nose is so gorgeous that it is defying the beauty of the noses of frogs, and your eyes are more beautiful than the eyes of dogs. Your lips are defying the flaming cinders of fire, and your abdomen is as beautiful as a big drum. Therefore, my dear beautiful Kutila, you are the most beautiful of all the cowherd girls of Vrindavan. Because of your extraordinary beauty, I think you must be beyond the attraction of the sweet blowing of Krishna's flute. End quote. I was reading this while I was waiting for a performance this weekend, and I was laughing hilariously. Somebody came over and asked me if I was enjoying my book. I'm like, yes, it was very funny. All right, now we're where I thought I was before. Chapter 46, Astonishment and Chivalry. Astonishment. The ecstasy of astonishment in devotional service is perceived in two ways. Directly, by the experience of one's own eyes, and indirectly, by hearing from others. When Narada came to see the activities of the Lord at Dwarka, and he saw that Krishna was present within every palace in the same body, and was engaged in different activities, he was struck with wonder. So 16,108 wives, all those different castles, different rooms, he was there in every place. So this is one of the examples of astonishment in devotional service by direct perception. One of the friends of Mother Yashoda says, quote, Yashoda, just see the fun. On the one hand, there is your child who is always captivated by sucking the milk from your breast, and on the other hand, there is the great Govardhan Hill, which can, what is that word? Oh, obstruct the passing of the clouds. Sorry, it's kind of missing letters. But still, just see how wonderful it is that this great Govardhan Hill is resting on the finger of your child's left hand, just as though it were a toy. Is this not very mysterious? End quote. This statement is another example of astonishment in devotional service by direct perception. An instance of astonishment in devotional service by indirect perception occurred when Maharaj Parikshit heard from Shukadeva Goswami about Krishna's killing Narakasura, who had been fighting Krishna with 11 divisions of Akshohini soldiers. Each division of Akshohini soldiers contained several thousand elephants, several thousand horses and chariots, and several hundreds of thousands of infantry soldiers. Narakasura possessed 11 such divisions, and all of them were throwing arrows toward Krishna. But Krishna killed them all simply by throwing 3 arrows from his side. When Maharaj Parikshit heard of this wonderful victory, he immediately rubbed the tears from his eyes and became overwhelmed with joy. This instance is an example of astonishment in devotional service by indirect perception through oral reception. There is another example of indirect astonishment. trying to test Krishna to see if he were truly the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Brahma stole all the cowherd boys and cows from him. But after a few seconds, he saw that Krishna was still present with all the cows, calves, and cowherd boys, exactly in the same way as before. When Lord Brahma described this incident to his associates on the Satyaloka planet, they all became astonished. Brahma told them that after taking away all the boys, he saw Krishna again playing with the same boys in the same fashion. Their bodily complexion was blackish, almost like Krishna's, and they all had 4 arms. The same calves and cows were still present there, in the same original fashion. Even when describing this incident, Brahma became almost overwhelmed. Quote, and the most astonishing thing, he added, was that many other Brahmas from many different universes had also come there to worship Krishna and his associates. End quote. Similarly, when there was a forest fire in the Bandiravana, in that forest, Krishna instructed his friends to close their eyes tightly, and they all did this. Then, when Krishna had extinguished the fire, the cowherd boys opened their eyes and saw that they had been relieved from the danger and that their cows and calves were all safe. They began to perceive the wonder of the situation simply by guessing how Krishna had saved them. This is another instance of indirect perception causing astonishment in devotional service. The activities of a person, even if they are not very extraordinary, create an impression of wonder in the heart and mind of the person's friends. But even very wonderful activities performed by a person who is not one's friend will not create any impression. It is because of love that one's wonderful activities create an impression in the mind. Chivalry. When on account of love and devotional service for the Lord, there is special valorous enthusiasm. The resultant activities are called chivalrous. These chivalrous activities can be manifested in the acts of mock fighting, giving in charity, showing mercy, and executing religious principles. By performing chivalrous activities in fighting, one is called Yuddha Vira. So Vira means heroic or brave, and so Yuddha is fighting. So this is brave fighting or heroic fighting. By charitable activities, one is called Dana Vira. By showing extraordinary mercy, one is called Dayam Vira, so merciful hero. And when one is munificent in executing religious rites, he is called Dharma Vira. In all such different chivalrous activities, Krishna is the object. When a friend wants to satisfy Krishna by performing some chivalrous activities, the friend becomes the challenger, and Krishna himself becomes the opponent. Or else Krishna may give audience to the fighting, and by his desire, another friend becomes the opponent. A friend once challenged Krishna thus, quote, my dear Madhava, you are very restless, because you think that no one can defeat you. But if you do not flee from here, then I shall show you how I can defeat you, and my friends will be very satisfied to see this. End quote. Krishna and Sridham were very intimate friends, yet Sridham, out of anger with Krishna, challenged him. When both of them began to fight, all the friends on the bank of the Yamuna enjoyed the wonderful fighting of the two friends. They prepared some arrows for mock fighting, and Krishna began to throw his arrows at Sridham. Sridham began to block these arrows by whirling his pole, and by Sridham's chivalrous activities, Krishna became very satisfied. Such mock fighting generally takes place among chivalrous persons, creates wonderful excitement for all the viewers. There is a statement in the Haribamsha that sometimes Arjuna and Krishna fought in the presence of Kunti, and Arjuna would be defeated by Krishna. In such chivalrous fighting between friends, there is sometimes bragging, self-complacence, pride, power, taking to weapons, challenging and standing as opponent. All of these symptoms become impetuses to chivalrous devotional service. One friend challenged Krishna thus, quote, "My dear friend Damodar, you are an expert only in eating. You have defeated Subal only because he is weak, and you adopted cheating means. Don't advertise yourself to be a great fighter by such action. You have advertised yourself as a serpent, and I am the peacock who will now defeat you." End quote. The peacock is the ablest enemy of the serpent. In such fighting between friends, when the self-advertisement becomes personal, learned scholars say it is sub-ecstasy. When there is a roaring challenge, certain kinds of movement for fighting, enthusiasm, no weapons, and assurance given to frightened witnesses, all these chivalrous activities are called sub-ecstasy. Oh, there's some comments here. Dr. Mimula says, "It's nice that Krishna is humorous." And Kandita is laughing out loud. One friend addressed Krishna in this manner, quote, "My dear Madhusudana, you know my strength, yet you are encouraging Bhadrasena and not me to challenge mighty Baladev. By this action, you are simply insulting me, because my arms were as strong as the bolts of the gate." End quote. A devotee once said, quote, "My dear Lord Krishna, may your challenger Sridham become glorious for his chivalrous activities, such as vibrating like a thundercloud and roaring like a lion. May all glories go to Sridham's chivalrous activities." End quote. And here where I live, thunder just happened. That's so cool. Chivalrous activities in the matter of fighting, charity, mercy, and execution of religious rituals are called constitutional, whereas the expression of pride, emotions, endurance, kindness, determination, jubilation, enthusiasm, jealousy, and remembrance are called unconstitutional. When Stoka Krishna, one of the many friends of Krishna, was fighting with him, his father chastised him for fighting with Krishna, who was the life and soul of all residents of Vrindavan. Upon hearing these chastisements, Stoka Krishna stopped his fighting. But Krishna continued to challenge him, and thus, in order to meet the challenge, Stoka Krishna took his pole and began to display his dexterity by whirling it. Once, Sridham challenged Bhadrasena and said to him, quote, "My dear friend, you needn't be afraid of me yet. I shall first of all defeat our brother Balaram, and then I shall beat Krishna, and then I shall come for you." End quote. Bhadrasena therefore left the party of Balaram and joined Krishna, and he agitated his friends as much as the Mandara hill had agitated the whole ocean. By his roaring sounds he deafened all his friends, and he enthused Krishna with his chivalrous activities. So Mandara, this reference to Mandara hill, is the demons and the demigods were having this ongoing battle, and they ended up doing this, having a, agreement. They came up with an agreement, and they would churn this ocean and get things out of the churning. And so they needed a churning pole, so they got the Mandara hill, and then they needed a rope, so they used the snake around Shiva's neck and wrapped that around the mountain. And as they were doing, the hill sank into the ocean, and so then Kurma, the Kurma avatar of Vishnu, came and went underneath the hill so that it could move and was buoyant again. And they churned the ocean, and all these things came out of the ocean. The Kalpavriksha trees, the Stuba jewel, um, a potion for long life, a horrible poisonous potion that Shiva ended up drinking, which is why he has this bluish neck. So anyway, all these kinds of things came out of this ocean. When did Shiva drink the ocean? This is it. Yes, right. I did answer it. So yes. So he agitated his friends as much as the Mandara hill had agitated the whole ocean. That's a lot. That's a lot of agitation. I'm going to read 3 more paragraphs to end this little section, because then it goes on to Dhanavira. So, once Krishna challenged all his friends and said, quote, "My dear friends, just see, I am jumping with great chivalrous prowess. Please do not flee away," end quote. And upon hearing these challenging words, another friend, Vrotapa, counter-challenged the Lord and struggled against him. One of the friends once remarked, quote, "Sudama is trying his best to see Damodar defeated. And I think that if our powerful Subal joins him, they will be a very beautiful combination, like a valuable jewel bedecked with gold," end quote. In these chivalrous activities, only Krishna's friends can be the opponents. Krishna's enemies can never actually be his opponents. Therefore, this challenging by Krishna's friends is called devotional service in chivalrous activities. And I think that this section is so great after the humorous chapter, because we can see all the humor in all of these different things that are going on in the chivalrous ecstasies. Anyway, I'm glad I remembered to read the first section first. Oh, all right, my friends. Any questions, comments? No? All right. Well, so think about that. Think about that in the days to come. And I hope that you are excited and happy to read. What will we read next? Well, the next section is on Dhanavira, or chivalry, in the giving and charity. So that's it. Oh, after this book, we haven't decided what to read next. We should think about what to read next. Any ideas, suggestions? Not yet. All right, well, think on it, and we'll talk about this again next week. All right, my friends, have a wonderful weekend, and we'll be here Sunday morning at 10 for Bhagavad Arka Marichimala, and Tuesday at 7 to read Bhagavad Gita. Maybe the first canto of Bhagavatam? Yes? That would be a good chunk. All right. Take care, my friends. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, without whom we wouldn't relish any of these wonderful things. Take care. Hare Krishna.